Greetings and welcome to another Diablo 2 Resurrected video. Today I want to show you the Assassin in a budget setup as a ladder starting character. This is something that you might have at the start of ladder or you find while you're playing through the game, doing some counters runs, finding some runes for these starter rune words, and then you can already start farming with this character. The Assassin is a great choice at that, and the gear that we'll be looking at today is budget and fairly minimal. So we have a crescent moon. This may be the highest rune that we're using, the rune right here. You can also use a spirit sword, depends on what build you're going, more on that later on. A lower helmet, a rare amulet with +1 to assassin skills, some all res on it, rhyme shield, smoke armor for resistances, just some random blue boots. As you can see, they only have faster run walk. Preferably they also have some kind of resistances on them. Then we have some ring with attack rating, lifestone hit, fast cast rate. This is actually pretty much useless for the trap assassin. This shows how unimportant it is at this stage. So if you can find something with like life, energy, resistances would be great. And a rare belt with resistances on it, another ring, and here you can see we have some resistances on. And then some mage fist. Of course, this is fairly optional as it doesn't do anything for lightning trap assassin aside from fire blast +1. And as I already mentioned, we can also use a spirit sword and a teleport staff in our offhand, or a low resist one, which will help us with our traps. If you want to know how to shop one of these, like teleport staff or the low resist one, check out the links in the description below. I have videos up on that and how to shop them very easily. Next up we have our Mercenary, who is currently equipping an Insight because it greatly helps with our mana, and then a Treachery and also a Tarasha's Mask. You can also use something like a Bulwark or a smoke armor for him, so that he will survive better and have more resistances. At these early stages of the build, and without call to arms, which gives you greatly improved life and +1 skill points, it is unlikely that the Mercenary will survive any heavy fights, but if you can keep him alive, then it's very, very useful, especially with an Insight polearm. Next up we have some stats here. Strength just enough to equip your gear, and you can dump the rest to vitality, and that's already it. So let's get into these skills. First build I want to show you is the Lightning Trap Assassin. We put 20 points into Fire Blast, 20 into Shockweb, 20 into Charge Bolt Sentry, 20 Lightning Sentry, and the rest of our points in Death Sentry. You can switch it up a little bit by maxing out Death Sentry and not maxing out Fire Blast first. But especially throughout leveling, if you go this route or if you switch it up like later on in Nightmare or in Hell, you have two sources of damage. So you can deal with lightning immune monsters by throwing Fire Blast, and you can deal of course with fire immune monsters by using Lightning Sentry. Only fire and lightning poses a problem. Hopefully you have a Mercenary that helps out with that. Other than that, we have 1 point in Claw Mastery to reach Burst of Speed, which helps us with laying down traps. If you have trouble surviving, then I suggest putting 1 point into Fade. And we have 1 point in Weapon Block, which we actually don't really need because we are using only one weapon and not even claws, so you can just skip that and put in 1 point in the Cloak of Shadows. Mind Blast can be very helpful. I personally don't like it, but if you're a fan of converting enemy monsters, then put 1 point into that. So let's head into some gameplay with the Lightning Trap Assassin build. For example, a very, very good place is Frigid Highlands for Eldritch and Shank. The maximum the traps that you can place are 5. Usually what you do is place 4 lightning traps and then at least 1 Death Sentry trap. And then I usually put more Death Sentries as more enemies die, so I can use the corpses. Also use Cloak of Shadows if there are a lot of monsters. It's way safer that way. Also use the low resist one. We really don't need it here. because the monsters are fairly weak. Just keep in mind that Cloak of Shadows and low resist does not match. Like, you can only have one of these. Cloak of Shadows is kind of considered a curse as well. So if you can farm these spots, or of course you can look for some Terror Zone and farm that. It is fairly straightforward to do so. As you can see, these monsters are lightning immune, so we are using our Fire Blast. And then rely on Corpse Explosion to clean up. But it is working pretty nicely, although our main damage is lightning. As you can see, we still don't really have much of a problem disposing of the lightning immune monsters. Other than that, cow level is a great spot to farm, especially since we have Corpse Explosion. And you might want to use low resist here to help out with the damage. And as soon as one or two cows are dead, drop the death sentries for cleanup. So this works very, very well. And as you just saw, we barely have any gear or plus skills, and still we are able to farm the cow level fairly efficiently, I would say. Especially like this, you can also drag other cows to the pile of corpses, because Corpse Explosion is your highest damage output. And there you go, that's the Lightning Trap Assassin gameplay. Another great budget build for the Assassin and let us starting build is my personal favorite, the Blade Fury Assassin. The gear here is a little bit different. I have a Malice right now in an Ethereal Svaya with +1 to Blade Fury. It would be equally or even better to have a Pattern Rune Word. I have this in the build in the link description below, so you can look at that. Then a helmet that I crafted. It has some Deadly Strike, which is good for Blade Fury, and a little tiny bit of Lifestorm per hit, like 1%. I got the Mahim Orc Courier here, a Rhyme Shield, a Smoke Armor. His Zarus is also very important right here, because it gives you a lot of attack rating. And I upgraded the belt to have more potion slots, because in its original form it's just a normal belt with only like 2 more rows. Then I have a Manaut for some Mana Leech, a rare ring with some resistances, and laying of hands. This will greatly increase your power, for example, against the Travincal Council. So this is one of the first priority chase items. You can consider this budget or not. If you don't have it yet, your farming options are a bit limited, or it's a bit harder at least to do like Travincal, but you can still do Terror Zones or like Hell Counters to get a rune to trade for laying of hands. So I highly recommend getting this. And yeah, we also have an Act 3 Fire Mercenary this time, with a Spirit Sword, a Stealth Armor, a Ratha's Coil, with an Rune. Okay, you don't really need to do this, because the resistances are already maxed out, so ignore this. A Sigon's Shield with a Perfect Diamond also rounds up this little build. He's most likely to die in Travincal, but like for Terror Zones and stuff, you can keep him around. And I have him because of Enchant. It gives me 300% or like 299% plus attack rating and a decent amount of fire damage on top of what I'm already dealing. As far as the skills go, 20 in all the blade skills right here. And then max out the Claw Mastery next. Lastly, because what is very important in this budget variant, before you have really good gear like Natalia's set, you want to max out Shadow Master to tank for you, to block for you, to soak up most of the damage that, for example, the Travincal will do, and I can show this in a second. Later on, you also want one into Dragonflight, so you can teleport up to the enemy, which is very, very helpful. Right now in the offense, I don't have any teleport staff. I actually have some I don't know, +3 shadow discipline. I don't even know if they legally exist, so just ignore these and I don't have the strength for it now anyways. But the teleport staff, of course, is very helpful as always. So let's see how this build goes. You can also use Fade here because we don't really need the attack speed, and gives you a nice chunk of resist all. Also, be careful with Blade Shield. I just used it out of habit, but if you have an inferior weapon, Blade Shield will use durability. Blade Sentinel and Blade Fury will not. So let's spawn our Rusty Shadow Master. And if you're not looking for farming Travincal Council that early, then of course you can, instead of Shadow Master, you can also put in 20 points on the Death Sentry if you want, or some points on the Death Sentry to get that going. But as you can see, the Shadow Master is an excellent tank here. And we can just kill Council. If you're interested, this build can be very ridiculous and have over 700% magic find and still be able to farm Travincal in less than 1 minute. I will put the link of the video in the description below. But that's the Blade Free Assassin, my personal favorite and the one I will be running come next ladder. I just want to take a quick minute to briefly talk about the Fire Trapsin, which is also fairly decent in the budget setup. You put in 20 into Fire Blast, 20 into Wake of Fire, 20 into Wake of Inferno, 20 into Death Sentry, and 10 into Lightning Sentry, and then Burst of Speed and Cloak of Shadows, and that's it. The rest of the gear stays the same. I just use the Spirit right now instead of Crescent Moon, of course, because we don't have Lightning as damage source anymore. And if we go here into the cow level, we can see that it's actually pretty decent, but it's not as strong as the lightning variant. But same thing, like if you get some cows to fall, and here you can see with Inferno, also using lower resist wand, it is possible as well to farm with this build. And again, like something like Stony Tombs is very nice to farm with this because there are no fire immunes there, and it's a level 85 area where every item can drop. You just have to find Stony Tombs all the time, like going out of Loot Lane, so I don't really like it as much. But that's the Fire Trap Assassin, short and brief. And that's it for the Assassin in terms of ladder starting builds. What's your favorite Assassin build, or do you have another suggestion as a ladder starting build? I know there's also Kixin, which has some very, very nice use cases, or Dragon Tail Assassin, or even Phoenix Strike Assassin, although I find it a bit clunky and hard to farm with as an early ladder starter. Of course, Assassin scales tremendously well, not only with lightning or fire traps, because minus enemy resistance also now applies, and your plus elemental damage also applies as of the latest patch. But also the Mosaic Assassin is the super S plus tier right now if you want to go that route and farm for that item. So like you need two Gull Wounds and then put it into Claws and just go nuts with it. But other than that, I think this is a great ladder starter. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and check out the other videos on ladder starters on budget builds. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing for more videos in the future like this. And yeah, until then, good luck, have fun, and goodbye.